Welcome to episode 12 of Rabbit Hole Reviews. Today we're going to take a quick look at the Ruger Mark IV Standard 22 long rifle pistol. I love the Ruger Mark series of pistols. All of them, even all the way back to the Mark 1s, 2s, the 3, and then of course the latest iteration, this one here, is a Mark IV Standard, introduced in 2016 and incorporating a much needed upgrade, which I'm not sure why they didn't do this 50 years ago. The gun that you're looking at here is the 4.75 inch standard barrel. So you see a 4.75 inch standard tapered barrel. It's the model 40104. So this is what you're looking at here. It's a 10+1 capacity semi-automatic pistol. If it looks like a Japanese 8mm Nambu pistol from World War II, it's because when Bill Ruger designed this gun, he took direct inspiration from that pistol back in 1949, which is immediately post-war. He took a liking to it. The whole way you charge the pistol is identical in a lot of ways. Aesthetically, it's very similar. So if you see a gun like this in a display case somewhere, it's either a Nambu or it's one of these. Because I don't know of many people that have copied this design profile, this aesthetic. I like it. Probably the only thing I don't like about it is the relatively small trigger guard and a couple other minor features that we're going to get into. But you have to look at what you buy a gun like this for. So the base standard model, which is what we're looking at, it is base. I mean, it is basic. It came in an absolutely forgettable cardboard box that I don't even think had a Ruger logo on it. It wasn't even marked Ruger. It was a cardboard box, which is long gone. You got your basic manual, and that is it, and this gun. It was relatively inexpensive back in 2016 when I bought it. I don't have the purchase price from back then, but it's not really relevant to at the time of making this video because everything's subject to change, including price. Whatever you pay, if you pay the going rate and don't pay too much, you are going to get an excellent handgun. Obviously, there's a tipping point when things no longer become worth it, but I don't think that this gun falls into that category. It's not a collectible gun by any means. They're in current production. It's a Ruger Mark Series pistol, which they've made millions of since 1949, 1950. So let's get into a couple things. So we'll pick it up. As you see my hand come out of the right-hand side of the screen, you notice these sights, I mean, aside from being completely non-adjustable, they track really well. They pick up. The sight picture is quite excellent. And it's good that the sights don't need any adjustment because they were right on from the factory. Now, that's going to be dependent on what load you shoot. Obviously, your impact's going to change and the distance that you're going to be shooting at and things like that. But no complaints with the sights. Now, the trigger, which we're not going to test because I don't really like dry firing 22 long rifle pistols without a snap cap, which I can't find my 22 long rifle snap caps. So for the purpose of this test, I did put it on the gauge and it came right in at 5 pounds. And then I researched the trigger weights, and the published weights that I found were right at 5 pounds. And they say it's heavy, gritty, and 5 pounds, unremarkable. And I think that's true in this, at least in this example here. But this is a standard model, so I really wouldn't upgrade the trigger. This is your basic 22 semi-automatic pistol, which is good to train people on. It's very robust. It's relatively heavy for what it is. You know, at roughly 32 ounces, it's, very well built. There's nothing alloy here, except for maybe the frame. I'll have to do some research on that. Correct me in the comments. It could have an aluminum alloy frame. It doesn't feel like it, not with the weight. Maybe that's something I should research. But another feature it has, which is really nice, is if you look, it has a raised magazine button. So it's very high profile. It actually sticks above the grip. You're not going to miss this. It's very accessible for pretty much any size hand. The magazines eject smartly. As you see, it flies out of the gun. Very nice feature. Let's go ahead and make it fly back in the gun. Everything about this is very well made. You feel the weight. Soaking up any recoil that a 22 long rifle is going to have. I generally shoot, let's like copper jacketed bullets. I don't really shoot lead round nose 22 long rifle in this gun for a couple of reasons. And it's been 100% reliable. I've never had any issues. There's no break-in period, at least not for me. The safety, as you see, is very positive. And it's ambidextrous, which is nice. That's the only thing that's ambidextrous on this gun. Of course, you can cock it from either side, because if you look at the cocking piece in the rear, that is left and right as well. So I guess we could say that's also ambidextrous when you cock it from either side. Now, let's get to the real reason why the Mark IV is an upgrade over the Mark III. For those of you who've had a Mark III in the past, you will remember, or a Mark II, or any Mark other before the Mark IV, you're going to know what a royal pain in the ass it was to take that gun apart correctly, to clean it, and put it back together properly so it would fire. That was a real issue for me. Now, I owned the Mark III when I was younger, and I don't know, maybe I was less patient, but that was the only real criticism I could level at the Mark III. And the Mark IV corrected that. And so the Mark IV series is across the board. All the models that they made during the Mark III era were continued. So you have things like the Standard, which is this model here. You have the Target, the Hunter, the Competition, the Tactical, the 22/45 series with the different grip profile. The 22/45 Light and the Tactical were all continued from the Mark III range, just upgraded to the Mark IV. So without further ado, what is that big upgrade that I keep mentioning in this video? Well, this is it right here. If you look, there's a button on the top of the receiver here. And all you have to do, and there's also a button down here. So to take this gun apart, to break it down into 3 sub-assemblies, you depress this button, like so, and then simply pivot the upper barrel assembly, which actually comes right off, just like that. This gun takes apart in a matter of seconds and puts together in a matter of seconds. So once you have the barrel assembly and the lower pistol grip removed, you simply pull the bolt assembly out. Don't know if I'm going to get this all in frame. And you have your 3 components, like so. The gun is now ready to be cleaned. And you can clean this gun in I don't know, 2 minutes. You run a bore snake through it, or a patch through the upper barrel assembly, which was nice because in the Mark III, you couldn't clean it from the chamber end forward. You had to clean it from the muzzle, because unless you had a bore snake, there was no way to run a rod through there easily. It could be done, but this is much easier. So just like so, when you want to put it back together, reverse order, you put the upper barrel assembly and you put it on this pivot point here. There's a pin resting like a ledge on the pistol grip assembly, and you simply line up the big pin right here, and then just like so. And then we'll check for clear. Weapon is clear. That's it. So that is a huge upgrade to me. And I'm so glad Ruger they took decades to do it. I'm so glad they finally did it. Because honestly, I probably would have never bought another Mark III again after I'd sold my other ones, simply because I dreaded just taking it apart. I have other 22s, and those guns filled the role that I needed it to fill without all the hassle. So now you have the aesthetics, you have the design features, and everything else with the ease of maintenance. So a major, major win for Ruger in my book. It does have a magazine safety, which, I get it. I understand why they do it, rendering the pistol useless. So if you look here, if you see the white dot, that means it's safe. And then even when the weapon's on fire, when the white dot is occluded or covered, it's also I don't want to say worthless. It's just, you're not going to be able to fire it. Let's put it like that. Don't you just love how I take these videos in one take and I don't edit anything? So whatever happens to come in my mind is what you're getting on this video. Maybe I should go back and edit. Maybe I should be a professional, right? I don't know. But yeah, so you have the magazine disconnect, if that's an issue for you, which it really isn't, because I have a limited use for this gun. It's to basically shoot tin cans on a fence post, or just shorter range target shooting. It's not for any serious competition use for me. and it fills that role really well. They're very durable and they're very easy to clean, and they're actually pretty accurate. I mean, but that probably goes without saying because 22 is inherently accurate anyway. So if you pick good ammo, you're not going to have any problems at normal 22 long rifle pistol ranges. That's been my experience. Of course, I'm a sample size of one. One thing we want to get into, it did have a safety recall. So if you're in the market for one of these, I'm going to go ahead and read the safety recall verbatim. So in June 2017, Ruger issued a safety recall on the Mark IVs for a defective trigger and safety mechanism. If the safety were midway between the safe and the fire positions when the trigger was pulled, so midway would be somewhere in between here, almost like a half cock, but the safety was not on the fire position. Let me get that in frame for you guys. So this is the safe position, and this is the fire position. So if the safety was midway, say right here, so if it was midway between the safe and fire positions when the trigger was pulled, the gun could discharge when the safety was moved to the fire position. So if you happen to have it in this condition and you squeeze the trigger, nothing would happen, right? Because it's in between safe and fire. When you went to move it to the fire position, which is down, it would fire. So the Mark IVs that they're talking about that were affected by this safety recall began with the serial numbers beginning with 401. So that would be the 2017 model, and then the WBR, which is the 2016 models, were recalled. Now I'm going to go ahead and go back and check mine, and I look at the numbers, and I'll probably contact Ruger just to be thorough, not only to get it safety checked for my use, but if I end up selling this gun, that it's been dealt with, right? We don't want to kick some problem downrange and have somebody else deal with it, some hapless consumer that buys this at a later date if I decide to get rid of it. And I'm really not going to get rid of this gun. It's just such a well-made, well-designed. Everything about this is nice. It's got a cold hammer forged barrel, of course CNC machined lower assemblies. Everything about it is nice. And of course, if you look on the top, now if you don't like the sights, they're pretty inflexible, right? They're non-adjustable. You have an option to put a Weaver or a Picatinny base on the top here. So you have it's already drilled, tapped, ready to go. So you can, for $15, you can order either a Weaver or a Picatinny scope base that's all metal that you can screw into the top of this pistol. If I were going to do that, I would put a microdot on it. It would just scream to have a little microdot. But again, is it really necessary in a gun like this? This is not a target or barrel model. It doesn't have any upgraded triggers or anything like that. This is a base standard model. So I'm not going to upgrade it. I like it as is. But if I did have a target version, which I might buy now that I've done this video, I'm looking at their product catalog online and I feel like I want to buy another one. If I do, it's going to be on the channel. And if I get a target model, because that's really the only one that I have left to buy, I'm going to put a microdot on it. So I'll spend the extra $15 and then get a relatively inexpensive microdot, slap it on there. I think it would be very fast shooting. You can pick up targets very quickly with a microdot of this gun. Other than that, that's really all I have for you guys. It's like I said, it's a 5-pound trigger pull. Weighs in at roughly 32 ounces, so not exactly a lightweight, but it's a joy to shoot. There's obviously no muzzle climb. There's nothing. It's a 22 LR. And it comes with 2 magazines. Even though you're going to get a crappy cardboard box if you buy the base model, you are going to get 2 magazines, so that helps. It's 2 thumbs up for me on this one. This one won't be 20 minutes. I think we can shave this down to under 15, simply because this gun has been in continuous production in various marks since 1949. So Ruger has hit it out of the park, I think, with this design. They've incrementally made changes, and they've kept the model lineup for the Mark series very fresh. They've had the Mark 22 45s. They've had those in production for decades. Ruger knew what they were doing when they designed this gun, and they kept with it because they had a winning formula in their hands. I know that sounds like a bunch of marketing word salad, but take my word for it. This gun is worth every penny. As long as you pay what the going rate is, I think you're going to get a good buy. That has been my quicker than normal review of the Ruger Mark IV standard 22 long rifle pistol.